One Saturday in December 2016, in near-freezing temperatures, for more than 11 hours, scores of people, from close loved ones to strangers, came out and joined a panicked father in the search for his missing daughter. Little did he know that among those searching were the two men who would later be charged in connection to his daughter's killing. On that day, Liam McAtasney and Preston Taylor, both 19, were counted among the worried crowd searching for the missing 19-year-old girl, Sarah Stern. In this chilling story, what began as a bond forged in trust and shared dreams between three childhood friends soon turned into a deadly plot that shocked everyone who knew them. Hi there, I'm Raphael, and welcome to Shadows of Truth. Today's story takes us to Neptune City, a borough in Monmouth County in the U.S. state of New Jersey. This is the tragic story of Sarah Stern. Sarah was born in 1997. She grew up in Neptune City, New Jersey. Like we all do when we are growing up, we often form bonds with childhood friends that feel unbreakable. That was the same with Sarah Stern, Liam McAtasney, and Preston Taylor. They had known each other since they were 6 and stayed very close ever since. The three of them often act out skits together at school. They shared dreams, countless memories and secrets. They were so close that their parents would take turns driving carpool. They named their little friend group the Squad. Preston Taylor took Sarah Stern to junior prom, joined by McAtasney and other friends. They graduated from Neptune High School in the class of 2015. According to classmates, Sarah referred to the other two as her besties. They were inseparable. They knew each other's locker combinations. They were super close. If you had a model of a best friend group, then that was them. So you can imagine the shock that fell over the Neptune community as both Liam and Preston were named by the police as the prime suspects in her murder. The question on everyone's mind was, how did two friends go from close companions to cold-blooded killers? Friends and family members were mortified when the chilling details of the betrayal and the twisted motives that led to the tragic loss of Sarah Stern's life was revealed. It all started in the early hours of December 3, 2016, when an Uber driver, while driving by, noticed an abandoned car on the bridge. This was the bridge that runs over the Shark River, a shallow inlet right on the brink of the Atlantic Ocean. It connects Belmare and Neptune City in New Jersey. And because a bridge isn't a place you just leave your car without a reason, this was what prompted the Uber driver to call 911.
911, where is the emergency?
Not emergency. Actually on the Belmar Bridge, right after heading south in the middle of the bridge, there's a car that's abandoned. It's off to the side of the road, but...
The Belmar Bridge being the 35 bridge?
Yeah, the 35 bridge would be going from north going south. I'm driving Uber and Lyft tonight, so I just figured I'd give a call in, because it's kind of hard to see, I think, if you're coming the other way.
And was there anybody inside the vehicle?
I looked, no.
Okay.
Unless they were sleeping. I couldn't see them by their head being up. Nobody
Okay.
looked like they were in it.
All right.
His call raised alarm bells with the local police department, and an officer was sent over to check out the scene. On getting there, he found the car, an Oldsmobile 88, just as the caller had described it. The car was empty, with no sign of its driver, and the keys still in the ignition. When they ran the license plate, they found the car was registered to 96-year-old Lillian Stern. Lillian was the matriarch of a large family. She had 15 grandchildren, 19 great-grandchildren, and 6 great-great-grandchildren. One of these great-grandchildren was 19-year-old Sarah Stern, who frequently borrowed her car. Now, because of the way the car was found abandoned and without any sign of foul play, the first conclusion was that whoever parked the car had probably jumped into the river. A dive team started searching the Shark River below, but it was just too dark, so they had to wait until sunrise. The river wasn't very deep, but it was fast flowing and freezing at this time of year, so there was the concern that if someone was in the river, the currents would likely have swept them away pretty quickly into the Atlantic Ocean. The police called Michael Stern, Sarah's dad, who was on vacation in Florida at the time. He had been attempting to contact her all night since the evening of December 2nd. The last Michael had heard from her had been a text on December 1st, just after 10:30 p.m. He had sent Sarah a photograph of Cinderella's castle at Disney World, and she had replied, "Wow, the castle looks so pretty with the lights." The next evening, he tried contacting her but got no reply. When she didn't respond to his calls, he began to get frantic. He sent a series of texts. "Sarah, what's going on? Grandma's trying to get in touch with you. Why is your phone off? Call me when you get this message." Sarah did not reply to a single one of these texts. Michael Stern told police to contact her best friend, Liam McAtastany, and his mom, Megan. Maybe she was staying with one of them. With a million things racing through his mind, Michael set off on the 17-hour drive from Florida to New Jersey. The police towed the car and went to Sarah and Michael's house just before 3:30. Michael and his daughter Sarah lived together in Neptune City. Her mother, Carla, had sadly passed away from cancer 3 years before. This devastating loss had brought father and daughter more closer than ever before. Weirdly enough, when the police got to the house, the lights were all on. And the back door was unlocked. It was eerily quiet as they entered. They found the house empty. And Sarah's dog Buddy locked in his cage. This, for those who knew Sarah, was already strange. Buddy was the little love of her life, and rarely would Sarah lock him in his cage. Normally, Buddy was always just roaming around the house, and wherever Sarah went, she took Buddy too. Police spoke to Sarah's neighbor, Robin, and she said there was no way Sarah would have upped and left without arranging for someone to look after Buddy. The fact that Buddy was all alone by himself without food was already a red flag that something is definitely wrong. Oddly enough, Robin said, Sarah had come by her house earlier that day with one of her friends, Liam, to drop off a box of stuff she said belonged to her mother. Now this is very strange. Why would Sarah be dropping off precious belongings of her mother the same day her car was found abandoned on a bridge? This wasn't a good sign for Sarah's mental state. Increasingly, the signs are pointing to the fact that Sarah probably jumped off the bridge. Her car hadn't been broken into, and there were no signs of a struggle or foul play in the car, or even at her home. But Michael Stern, her dad, was having none of it. He reiterated the fact that even though Sarah had definitely had some few tough years, she was now more positive than ever for the future. She had big dreams, an amazing circle of friends, and nothing was getting in the way of her achieving what she wanted. Her list of upcoming plans was long. A local restaurant, Bruno's Pizza and Sub Shop, had reached out to her about painting a winter-themed mural on its window. At Christmas, she had plans to go to New York to watch a show on Broadway. She was also set to attend a bartending school so she could work at night and focus on her art during the day. The following summer, she was planning on moving to Canada permanently with her dog Buddy. She loved Canada and was frequently flying out there. It was a place she could see herself living forever, and the change was what she wanted. And even her short-term plans were all optimistic. She had dinner plans with a friend the following day, and she had just bought a TV to give to her grandmother for Christmas. So her sudden dropping off the grid didn't make sense. After talking with the neighbor Robin, it seemed that one of the people that saw Sarah last was her old friend, 19-year-old Liam McAtasney, the same Liam that Sarah's father had suggested to the police. When Michael heard his daughter was missing, two of the people he first suggested they contact was Liam and his mum, Megan. Police officers contacted Megan, and Megan assured them that she hadn't seen nor heard from Sarah. She, however, directed officers to her son's apartment. Liam and Preston lived just around the corner. Like I said earlier, Liam, Preston and Sarah were best friends. Their friendship was so close that everyone expected to see them together all the time. Where one of them was, the other two would likely be not far behind. Despite the occasional jokes from other people about romantic relationships between them, it was nothing but a solid friendship group, nothing romantic at all, just the best of friends. In Sarah's yearbook, a page on her best friend section had a picture of Liam and Preston, and on Liam's Facebook page, he listed Sarah in his family section. This demonstrates just how close the three of them were. They had been friends with Sarah throughout her mum's cancer diagnosis, treatment, and eventual death. When Liam was finally contacted by officers, Liam confirmed that he was at her house earlier that day, helping her move some things around. There were even 3 crates of her mother's belongings that they moved to his own apartment. The pair had driven around for a bit and grabbed some lunch from Taco Bell at around 2:30 p.m., but then he left her to go to work at around 4:45. And since then, he had not heard nor seen her again. Liam said that Sarah had recently confided in him that after her mum died, she had found a shoebox containing thousands of dollars of cash hidden in her family's second home. Inside was a note saying it was Sarah's inheritance. A lot of the cash was not in the best condition. It was old notes, and some of it was stuck together, but the pair had talked for ages about how if she could get that money accepted into a bank, it could help her achieve her dreams of becoming an artist. The officers asked Liam if Sarah might want to disappear, and what he told the officers was a complete opposite of Michael Stern's optimistic description of his daughter.
What was her mindset last time you talked to her?
I just know she's been trying to get away. You can tell me she's going to Canada.
Trying to get away, okay. Canada, she's been real depressed lately?
Her dad is crazy.
The police spoke to him once that morning, and then again, some days later. They wanted more information about what might have been going on in Sarah's life and why she might have absconded.
Does she ever talk about liking guys or?
Not that I know of.
Girls?
No. She has been known to obsess over girls in the past, though. One of my ex-girlfriends, a few years ago, she was completely obsessed with her right around the time her mom had cancer and was dying.
According to Liam, Sarah wasn't in the best state of mind and often had suicidal thoughts. He maintained that, a few years ago, fueled by arguments with her dad and the death of her mom, Sarah had actually made an attempt to take her own life.
She just would always say stuff like, "Maggie, if you don't come here right now, I'm going to kill myself," or there have been multiple occasions where my ex-girlfriend Maggie has had to go to the Draper's house to help her with either her dad. I can't say for sure if her dad was going to do something, but there has been a few occasions where she said, "My dad's going to hurt me or I'm going to hurt myself."
During the interview, he spoke more about the awful fights that Sarah and her dad, Michael, had allegedly been having. He even accused Michael of stealing money out of Sarah's inheritance and described him as threatening. Towards the end of the interview, Liam suddenly said something odd that changed the tone of the interview.
She did jump off the bridge. What are the odds that she's not somewhere all the way out in the ocean by now?
Of course, this was a strange thing to ask the detectives. It made them wonder if he knew more than he was telling them. So they asked him, "Did Sarah tell you she was going to jump off the bridge?" "Of course not. If she had told me that she was going to jump off the bridge, there would have been no way that I could have gone to work that night," he replied. The interview with Liam left the police with more questions than answers. Did Liam know where Sarah was? Was he covering for his best friend running away? With the kind of closeness the two had, police were sure that if indeed Sarah ran away, Liam would likely have been the first person she would have told. Surveillance cameras confirmed Liam's story that they had both been at the Taco Bell for lunch, and a neighbor's security camera also showed the pair coming and going from Sarah's house all day. The camera also showed Liam driving away to go to work that afternoon. He was also picked up on camera working his shift as well. However, on the day she had vanished, cameras from Sarah's bank showed her coming in to withdraw $7,000 from the almost $23,000 in her safety deposit box. Liam had been with her in the car. This was around the same time that they got lunch at Taco Bell. So why had he only mentioned their going to Taco Bell but neglected mentioning the bank?
You haven't told us about the bank. How come you haven't told us about the bank?
Well, I told him about.
Did you go to the bank?
I was with her.
Okay.
That's the way back from Taco Bell.
Why didn't you stop at the bank? What did she tell you she was stopping at the bank for?
Something to do with her money. I don't know. She had found money in the Avalon house a few months ago, and she has a lockbox full of money in there. I don't know. She was taking money out, putting money in there.
A lockbox full of money where?
In Carney Bank.
And not only that, he also forgot to tell the police that, although he was supposed to work until midnight that night, he actually clocked off at 10 p.m. This obvious omission in his statements were very disturbing to the investigators. On the afternoon of December 3rd, investigators went back to see if there was anything else Liam was neglecting to tell them. On getting to him, Liam's parents have already arranged for him to be represented by attorney, and this prevented the police from speaking to him any further. After not getting anything further from Liam, police decided to speak with Preston Taylor, Liam's roommate, and also Sarah's good friend. Preston was a lot less talkative than Liam, but he did confirm Liam's timeline and said that what his roommate told him was the same as what he told the officers. So they asked him, what did he think happened to Sarah? Tearfully, he said he thought she had jumped off the bridge. Arguments with her dad, possible depression, grief from her mother's death. There was a long list of things that might have driven her to this, he concluded. After talking to the two closest friends Sarah had, there was no doubt in police officers' minds that both Preston and Liam knew more than they were saying. They knew what happened to Sarah, but what exactly happened was still elusive to the police. A full week after Sarah's disappearance, her family and friends organized a search party. Both Liam, his twin brother, Seamus and Preston, along with almost 200 people, broke into groups and braved the near-freezing temperatures, searching for almost 12 hours each day.
Well, it's been a full week since 19-year-old Sarah Stern of Neptune was last seen, and now her family and friends are organizing a search party.
Family going to, if you will, take matters into its own hands, get a search party together.
People were advised that they would be searching at their own risks due to the weather condition, but that didn't deter anyone. Divers searched the river for several days, but to no avail, and helicopters didn't spot anything either. When the river search came up empty, the New Jersey State Police, Missing Persons Unit, and the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children joined in as well. But there was absolutely nothing. Not a single clue was found anywhere. It was so frustrating for the family and the investigators as well. How can a person just vanish into thin air without any trace? Finally, like they say, no matter how fast a lie runs, one day the truth will catch up with it. Out of an unexpected corner came a break that burst the whole mystery surrounding the case wide open. A fellow student who had attended the same high school with Liam, Sarah and Preston, Anthony Curry, asked to talk to the police about a conversation he had had with Liam. Anthony was a budding young filmmaker. He and Liam often talk about movies together. Liam loved horror films, and often come up with ideas or storylines. However, just a few days before Sarah was reported missing, Liam told him a new storyline he had conceived.
I make movies, I'm a filmmaker. He used to tell me ideas all the time about, films I should make and all that stuff, and he told me about this idea he had to kill this girl.
Liam described his idea as a plot of a horror film about a young woman being robbed, killed, and thrown off a bridge. Anthony said Liam was really excited about the storyline, and at the time, Anthony said he really didn't think much of it. They always spoke about films, especially horror, and Liam could sometimes be, in his words, a little weird about things. And this was a couple of days before Sarah disappeared. However, what made the conversation now stand out was that, since Sarah went missing, Liam had reached out to Anthony every single day, asking him if the police had spoken to him and if they had asked about him. His incessant worry about the police investigation triggered Anthony's recollection of the storyline Liam had told him, and the fact that Sarah's car was found abandoned on a bridge fits perfectly into the storyline. And what further solidifies his suspicions of Liam was that ever since Sarah's disappearance, Liam had insisted on having all their communication done only via Snapchat, which is an app designed to automatically delete all one-on-one and group chat snaps after they have been viewed by the recipient. The whole situation was too much of a coincidence to ignore. That was why Anthony called the police. His call to the police came at the right time. Up till then, the police were left with little or nothing to work on, and that was the biggest problem with the case from the beginning: lack of solid lead. Even as interesting as Anthony's claims are, it was still only an hearsay. For it to be useful to the police in their investigation, they needed to hear it from Liam himself. So Anthony agreed to secretly record his conversation with Liam, so the police set up a staged phone call.
My camera broke, dog. I dropped it on the shoot. It fell into a bucket of blood. You couldn't spot me some cash from that girl's money, right?
Maybe. How much do you need?
However, Liam was very cautious with his words over the phone and urged Anthony to a man-to-man meeting. So on January 31st, 2017, Anthony agreed to meet with Liam in a sting operation. The police set up this meeting with a very well-hidden microphone and a small camera in Anthony's car. When Liam got into the car, he was very paranoid and asked Anthony if he could check him for wire.
You can't blame me for doing this, right? I gotta see the up real quick, alright? No disrespect. I'll show you. No disrespect, okay? Look.
And after a quick search of Anthony and finding nothing on him, Liam began opening up, and what Liam began to say left everyone stunned. The degree of his treachery and betrayal of Sarah was shocking.
Yeah, I got the FBI in my hands, dude. What are they questioning? Oh yeah, a lot. Sarah's whole deal was my thing. But I had planned Sarah's situation for me to be interrogated by cops. That was whole part of my plan, to make me look not guilty. What did you throw? You didn't hear that? It was all over the news. I didn't know if you Yeah. And the worst part is, we threw her off the bridge, and the body never showed up. It's probably frozen. It's probably all the way out in the ocean. Listen, I'm not gonna let Preston do anything dumb. I did something really dumb, and I planned it out for half a year. I have patience.
He not only murdered Sarah, he had planned everything for months while pretending to be her best friend. According to him, after they returned from the bank that afternoon, he strangled her and watched her die. What was even more sickening, this dude actually set a timer to see how long it would take him to strangle his best friend to death.
I pretty much hung her, I picked her up and had her just dangling off the ground, and she just pissed herself. And you lose control of said my name, and then that was it. And it took me a half an hour to kill her. I thought I was going to be able to choke her out and have her out in a couple minutes. I choked her out, and then she was just laying there having a seizure or something. So then I got a shirt, and I just shoved it down her throat so she wouldn't throw up or anything, and held my finger over her nose, and set a timer. And it took me like a half an hour after I hit start. This is the thing about, like, heists. There's so much that you can't account for. You don't know. Yeah, you don't know until it happens.
It took her 30 minutes to take her last breath. The horror and trauma Sarah must have endured in those final moments of her life is beyond imagination. Seriously, guys, I've never heard something as bizarre as Liam's confession, and his motive was purely to get his hands on her inheritance. After he murdered her, Liam said he realized he needed help to get rid of her body, so he called Preston to help him out.
I choke her out, drag her into the back, put her in a bathroom, and then I had to go straight to work. So Preston came over, took the body, put it in the bushes.
Now, may I remind you guys that Preston was also Sarah's friend. He even took her to the prom. Preston agreed to help Liam get rid of Sarah's body in exchange for a cut of the money. Preston came over, took the body out of the house, and hid her in the bushes near the house till it got dark. Liam clocked off at around 10 p.m. He came back to Sarah's house with Preston, and they both bundled Sarah into the passenger seat of her car. Liam drove Sarah's car, followed by Preston in his own car.
I got up on top of the bridge to throw her off. My plan was I was going to throw her off, run over, jump over the divider, and get into Preston's car. And then cars start coming up. I see, like, headlights coming. I try to get her over, and I can't.
Both guys threw Sarah's body over the bridge and left her car at the spot where it was later found. Liam got into Preston's car, and they drove off. When asked by Anthony how he felt after the killing, Liam replied that the killing had had absolutely no effect on him. The only problem was that the money he made was not as much as he had hoped for, and the worst part was that some of the money was old money and in terrible condition.
The worst part of it is I thought I was walking out 50 grand, 100 grand in my pocket. She had one safe, and she took money out, and she only had 10 grand. And this money, I don't know if it was burnt or something, old money, terrible quality. I don't even know if I could put any of it in the bank. It looks sketchy, you know, it looked like it's Sarah's money, especially if it's a federal investigation. If they're looking for the guy who has the old money, spent a lot of money, and I didn't even get a quarter of it. So you're only around, what, 7 million? Somewhere around there. You spent it all? No, I didn't even try to do anything with it because it's in such bad shape. Like, I need to play low and then maybe, like, tape some up and see if I can put it in the bank. So where do you have it hidden? Yeah. Where'd you hide it? Sandy Hook. First it was in my house for a long time, but then I stopped trusting Preston.
On the basis of his horrific confession, the next day, February 1st, 2017, Liam and Preston were arrested in connection with the death of Sarah. To say that everyone who knew them was shocked at their arrest was an understatement. Upon their arrest, the once very expressive Liam clammed up and remained silent, but Preston started singing like a canary.
What we're most interested in knowing, not necessarily what happened, because we already know that. We want to know why it happened. All right? We want to know why Liam did what he did. What did he do? He killed Sarah. Okay? And we know you know that. Right? You know that. Correct? Yes.
He confessed to everything. He explained how Liam had used Sarah's desire to relocate to Canada to his advantage.
Tell you ahead of time that he was going to do this? Yeah. How long do you think that he planned to do this?
About a month. It wasn't too serious at first. The first time he told me about it, him and Sean came into Clancy's where I was working, and he just said, like, no intentions at this time, but Sarah just found a bunch of money, and that was it. And then it wasn't until about a month or two later he said that he was coming up with the idea, taking her out and then find somewhere to dispose of the body.
He had manipulated her trust with promises of relocating with her and the two of them starting a new life together in Canada. On that fateful day, he had convinced her that she needed to take out money so they could finalize their plan. So that afternoon, December 2nd, the two went to the bank, where Sarah withdrew about $7,000. They returned to her house, and Liam callously killed her. Preston told the authorities where they could recover two buried safe boxes, one in Sandy Hook Park, containing about $7,000, and another in Shark River Park, where they buried Sarah's clothing. In fact, when Liam was arrested, he had the key to one of the boxes on him. Preston walked investigators through the sequence of the fateful evening, starting from when he arrived at Sarah's house to move her body and all the way to the bridge where her body was finally thrown over.
Liam had lifted Sarah's body by the shoulders and gotten her partially up onto the curb, where I then grabbed her by the legs and hoisted her up onto the railing, and then I pushed her feet over so that she was going over the rest of the way.
In April 2017, Preston Taylor pleaded guilty to first-degree robbery, second-degree conspiracy to commit robbery, and second-degree disturbing or desecrating human remains, and he agreed to testify against Liam at his trial. As his trial started, Liam, upon the preponderance of evidence, unbelievably pleaded not guilty. His lawyer's first objective was to keep his taped confession out of court. They knew that the confession was the main incriminating evidence against him, so they came up with a ridiculous story about it. They claimed that Liam's confession to Anthony was simply an attempt by Liam to get a role in one of Anthony's films. It was all a poorly worded audition that Anthony had used to frame him. However, the court denied their motion and the taped confession was allowed in as evidence, and Anthony Curry was also allowed to testify. Liam didn't speak in court at all or testify in his own defense. Preston testified against Liam at the trial. He revealed that the whole idea started when Liam discovered that Sarah had inherited a large sum of money.
Was there a point in time in 2016 where you learned something about Sarah Stern and her coming into something?
Yeah, I learned that she found a shoebox full of money at her house in Avon.
Did you ask any questions about that money when you first learned about it?
I asked how much it was, and I was told that it was in the range of about $100,000.
The plan initially was to rob her, but after months of consideration, Liam eventually decided that the only way they could rob her and effectively get away with it is by killing her.
Well, at first we started discussing the fact that it was a lot of money and what we would do if we had that type of money. And then the conversation evolved into, well, what if we did have that type of money, specifically her money? And that was when the idea to rob her came about.
Okay.
And he brought up the money, passed the comment that it was the type of money that somebody would kill for.
At one point, the trial nearly went to a mistrial after a juror posted on Facebook, sitting on the jury LMAO. On this basis, Liam's lawyer wanted a mistrial be declared, but the judge rejected their request and the proceedings continued. Liam's defense vehemently argued that there was no sufficient evidence to suggest that Sarah Stern was even dead at all. After all, her body was never found. She could be out there, somewhere in Canada, or who knows where. Liam's lawyer even called witnesses who said they saw Sarah hours after prosecution said she had been killed. One of their witnesses testified that he saw Sarah walking down the street at 5 a.m. on December 3rd, which would have been hours after the time prosecutors say she was killed. His claims were later refuted by prosecutors on cross-examination. At the end of the trial, Liam was found guilty on all 7 counts against him, which included first-degree murder, conspiracy to desecrate human remains, tampering with evidence, felony murder, and robbery.
Guilty, guilty, guilty.
As the verdict was read out, Liam started crying. Something prosecutors said was completely for show. It was all fake, and he cared about nothing but himself. Preston Taylor, on the other hand, was sentenced to 18 years in prison, and he would be eligible for parole in 2032. This brings us to the end of the horrific story of Sarah Stern, a beautiful 19-year-old girl whose biggest mistake was trusting her 2 closest friends. But my God, if you can't trust someone you've known since 1st grade and who was supposed to be one of your best friends, who can you trust? This is one of the saddest things about this story. Sarah thought she was talking to friends when she told them about her inheritance, not knowing that she was signing her own death sentence. That is why they say, never tell anyone how much money you have. Only 2 things will happen. They will either try to take it from you or size you up by it. Either way, you lose. The creepiest part of this case is that Liam planned it for 6 months. Imagine hanging out with your best friend, having fun, while all they think about is getting rid of you. With friends like Liam and Preston, one doesn't need enemies. The way he confessed to the murder was the most disturbing thing that I have ever heard. Anthony Curry is the real hero here. Without him, the mystery behind Sarah's disappearance might never have been solved. Willing to sit alone at night in a car with a killer takes a lot of courage. Liam was suspicious of him at first, but he pulled through. He got all the necessary information and asked all the right questions while keeping his composure the entire time. The irony of Liam confessing to a friend, thinking he could completely trust him and he wouldn't betray him, emphasizes the cyclical nature of karma, a testimony to the fact that what goes around comes around. Sarah Stern trusted him, and she paid with her life. He trusted Anthony Curry, and he would spend the rest of his life in jail. Karma is not a bitch, it's a boomerang. What you sow, so shall you reap. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Raphael, and this is Shadows of Truth, and I will see you in the next one.